Okay, so let's try and unpack some of that back and forth with the front bench panel. With me this evening, former Nova Scotia Premier Stephen McNeil. He's now a strategic business advisor for the law firm Cox and Palmer in Halifax. Former Alberta MLA and Cabinet Minister Gary Mar is here as well. He's the president and CEO of the Canada West Foundation now. Former Communications Director to Jagmeet Singh, Melanie Richer, is with us. She now works at Earnscliffe Strategies. And CTV National News Ottawa Bureau Chief Joyce Napier rounds out our panel tonight. Hi, everyone. Really good to see you. I think, Joyce, I'll start with you when I say, help us unpack what happened this afternoon. Look, the big political question is around an inquiry. The Prime Minister continues to rebuff those calls. The committee today was not particularly revelatory in us finding out stuff that maybe we already didn't know.
No, it wasn't. But what was interesting is Jody Thomas, the National Security Advisor, saying, look, you may call a public inquiry, but you will not get what you want from it because there is such a thing as, secrets. The intelligence and, security agencies, you can't just go ahead and go in front of a committee, in front of a public inquiry and say, oh, this is what we found out, this is what we know. That's not the way it works. And these parliamentarians know exactly that that's not the way it works. So they're not going to get what they want there. There is, however, a committee of parliamentarians that have access of all parties that have access or could have access to this kind of data. There's many things that could be done without the necessity of a public inquiry. For instance, table bills. How about the foreign agent registry?
That's what Michael Warnick just told me. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff they could do.
There's a lot of stuff that they could do that they're not doing. So what I saw today was a lot of political theater and political posturing, which is what they do. It's fair. That's their job. But when it is such an important question, as a possible tampering with Canada's elections. And by the way, the RCMP said it did not meet the mark for a criminal investigation.
It's not made yet.
It has not yet.
Yeah.
Okay, so, but the problem now is that people have doubts.
Yeah, they really do.
And when people have doubts and there is no communication. Today is the first time that we heard the Prime Minister actually getting ahead of it and saying, this is so far what we have put in place. These are the committees.
Right.
This is what our agencies can do. Yep. This is what they've done. He should have done that weeks ago when the stories were coming out, and they didn't get ahead of the story. So it is becoming now chaotic with all sorts of political parties demanding all sorts of things and alleging things that are making people even more worried. So somebody has to take control of this and get to the bottom of it.
It's interesting, Gary, that Joyce brings up, that the sort of a little bit of a pivot from the Prime Minister today. Not a lot, but at least a change in tone around the issue. Because a week ago, we were all gathered, right, saying the issue is kind of getting away from him and he needs to sort of acknowledge that this is a big deal to Canadians. We have data today from Angus Reid that shows 53% of Canadians surveyed by them that argue that this attempted interference represents, they perceive, a serious threat to democracy. Do you think that the Prime Minister needs to say, not necessarily have an inquiry, but like beyond what we've already done, there needs to be something else?
Well, I think so. And just to go back to something that Joyce said, we didn't see much in today's hearings. We heard expressions like, well, the information landscape is complex. And for security reasons, the responses were really without much detail or specifics. So understandably, that's the position taken by the individuals who are responsible for this. But I give some credit to Public Security Minister Mendocino, who says, they are eyes wide open to the fact that foreign interference is a challenge to our democracy. And it shouldn't matter whether we're talking about Chinese state actors or Russian state actors or anyone, or state actors from any other place. And so the landscape has changed to the Prime Minister from when we were talking about this last week. I think he is starting to shift. I don't know if it'll go to a public inquiry, but as Joyce says, there are tools that can be put in place that can be seen by Canadians as the Prime Minister takes this matter seriously. Now, on the subject of whether you can have a public inquiry, I think it was, as I recall earlier this week, former CSIS director Richard McFadden, said there are precedents for commissions to hear classified information. I think that that there is some need for the Prime Minister to be seen to be taking this much more seriously, and I think he started to shift in that direction.
Is that your sense as well, Stephen?
Well, certainly I think from the Prime Minister's comments today, there's been a shift in tone. Unfortunately, I watched some of that committee today. Unfortunately, it fell into what I thought it would be, which is a partisan conversation. There are many things that can divide political parties and you can fight on over the election. You would hope as a Canadian that they could come together on this one issue, which is really paramount to the independence of our elections and, quite frankly, to democracy. I think Joyce laid out a path where we already have a committee that can go in, have people appointed from all of the parties and see firsthand the documentation, classified information. Today's committee demonstrated that CSIS, our intelligence agency, are not going to answer some of the questions that these committees are using for political purposes. So it would make sense to me to take it out of their hands and invite them to that committee where we can lay out all of the information to them so that when we hear them in the future, we know what it is. It's a partisan attack to try to win points heading into an election because they understand the anxiety Canadians are feeling about what potentially is being talked about.
The only issue with the National Security Committee looking at things, and that was also laid out by Jody Thomas, who, as Joyce points out, said, like, that's a better venue because they can actually hear about that classified information. She did also say, though, for example, they produce a report. Well, it goes to the Prime Minister's office in an unredacted fashion and then is produced to the public in a redacted fashion. So it's not clear exactly how much how much more we will know at the end of that about the scope of the issue, but at least there would be some mechanism beyond what exists right now or beyond what's happening right now.
Right. If there's good faith with the other parties, having that process happen, the other parties could take a look at it and then leave and say, okay, for maybe I can't tell you exactly, spell out exactly the reasons, but for these reasons, I feel reassured that steps are being taken to protect this from happening and that our election was a fair election and that's not what we're concerned about. I think for the most part, there's something to be said about just hearing people. And until today, we really haven't heard the Prime Minister say, I hear you, this is troubling, I agree with you that it's troubling, and I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that our elections are safe and that this doesn't happen again if it did happen. And we didn't really see that, and I think that's what's missing. And had we done that from the get-go, I think we would probably be in a different place with the public sentiment.
I think that's a really good point, Joyce. And the interesting part is it's actually a huge migration because at the outset, the Prime Minister was dismissive and said, if you're raising these concerns, and true, some of them have been very partisan, but if you're raising them, you're sowing doubt in the integrity of our system. Now it's migrated 2 weeks later to the point of, okay, I get that there are real concerns, and I'm going to, and I plan to, and I have been addressing them.
Well, something that perhaps he should have done at the outset but we know that they have a hard time communicating sometimes, bring you back to SNC Lavalin, that was a little bit the same thing. Get ahead of a story. You know that this is important. This is not going to go away. You can't wish things away, even if you're in the Prime Minister's office. So there seems to be a gap in the communicating to people. The poll today is not surprising, the Angus Reid, that 53% of Canadians are going, okay, wait a minute, what is going on? Because, people are not always paying attention to every single detail, but they are paying attention to news. We know that. We know that for a fact. So you have to get ahead of it and you have to reassure people as it is a duty of the Prime Minister to say, okay, not there's nothing to see here like he did at the beginning. No, don't worry, there's nothing to see here. No, everything was fine. You have to give people a few more details. You have to answer the question that people have. They want to know, was this a tampering of our election? The answer is yes. Was it successful? The answer is no. But then to the first question, what kind of tampering was it? I'm sure that even our intelligence and security agencies could give us a little bit more, just a little bit more.
Gary, were you surprised at all at that polling that so many Canadians are paying attention to this? It's not just an inside baseball, inside Ottawa type of story?
No, I don't think I was. And the reason why is because there is a pattern that that's been established by the Prime Minister, and Joyce and Stephen and Melanie have all talked about it, the last time we gathered on this, to deny and say there's nothing to be seen here. And I think Canadians are actually concerned about this. It's important that our democracy is an important institution to Canadians, and they want to know that something's being done. So, step one, acknowledge the issue. Step two is do something about the issue. And simply denying and saying there's nothing to see here, and anybody that criticizes is either they're racist, or that they're somehow that they are trying to score political points. I don't think that Canadians are satisfied with a pattern of answers on important issues to them.
Stephen, I have just 30 seconds left. Last word to you on this.
Well, the fact that we're not the only country that has had people interfering in their elections, there's no wonder the anxiety of Canadians is where it is. I don't think anyone should be surprised at that. I think the fact of the matter is the Prime Minister is going to have to speak to Canadians to reassure them that this has his full attention, and that he'll do everything he can to protect our election system.